In the heart of Eastern Europe, the Carpathian Mountains have long been the domain of shepherds, whose time-honored practices and intimate knowledge of the land have shaped a unique way of life. However, the future of this ancient profession is now at a crossroads. The existence of shepherds, once important and stable, is becoming increasingly precarious. Sensing their fading presence in the Romanian Carpathians, we aim to reconstruct what was once a great and revered activity, a timeless tradition woven into the fabric of these mountains, distinctly different from an ordinary life. Modernity, the ever-present threats of predation, and harsh living conditions unsupported by material motivation, conspire to push this traditional way of life to the brink of extinction.
Venim cu oile la târlă, la stână, mi-am luat bâta și am plecat să mă duc în stână.
I came to the sheepfold with the sheep. When I arrived, I took my club and went into the sheepfold. I ate. I heard other boys who were near the sheep shouting, "The bear! The bear!" So, I ran too. I jumped over the gate. I took my cudgel and ran through the forest.
Ca la care atunci când m-am întâlnit cu el la 10 metri,
Then I met another shepherd in the forest. We were about 10 meters apart, and he said to me, "Don't go. The bear is in the forest." I asked him, "Did it take the sheep or not?" He replied, "I'm not sure."
când am sucit, am văzut ursul.
And when I turned back, I saw the bear. It had passed through some fallen trees.
Scuză-mă, era la o jumătate de metru, cred că avea în cur.
But excuse me, I think it was about half a meter wide just at the back. So fat. For spring in the mountains, it was too fat. It was one of those brought-in bears, not wild.
Asta mi-a fost soarta. A trecut pe sub brajă, am sărit peste el și am sărit la 1 metru. Fiind pe hoit, am luat buta și am dat în el.
So passing under the fir trees, I met it at a meter's distance, and I shouted, "The bear." That was my fate. It passed under those fir trees, and then I jumped over it at a meter's distance. It had a dead sheep. I took the club and hit it. I hit it with the stick from its legs to its head. It turned to me, stood up on its hind legs, and tried to grab my head. When it tried to grab my head, I dodged, but it climbed on my leg. It bit me here with its mouth and clawed me here.
Când am zbierat, când mi-a băgat cu un picior, am zbierat, am zis. Și am băgat mâna în ceafa lui. Și am avut 2 câini, atât. Câinile l-au pișcat și am zbierat la...
When it sunk its teeth into my leg, I screamed, "Ah!" And I grabbed it by the scruff of its neck. And I only had 2 dogs. That's all I had. The dogs bit it, and I shouted to the other shepherd, "Come too," it broke my leg. The other shepherd came, the bear retreated a meter and then came back because it had tasted blood.
Nu mai trăgeam speranță că eu mai trăiesc.
I didn't think I would survive. People didn't know. They cut my pants and put cold water on the wound. Almost stopped my heart. And I told them, "The bear didn't kill me, and you're going to. Tear a pair of pants and tie it to stop the bleeding. And I'll wait until someone comes to transport me. I can't be put on a horse either, because of my leg, I can't ride in the saddle."
Că nu merge la mine nici pe cal să mă pui călare, că e piciorul. E în șa, nu pot să merg.
Herding in the mountains has always carried the shadow of predator attacks from bears and wolves. Shepherds, with their loyal dogs, skillfully kept these threats at bay. Yet, recent times have brought a new peril: urbanized bears. Due to the lack of natural habitats, these bears have become accustomed to frequenting human settlements to procure food. Familiar with the presence of people, they have become bold and aggressive, unlike their wild counterparts, who once regarded humans as formidable adversaries.
Învățați cu oamenii.
They are bears brought from the city of Brashov, bears accustomed to people. 15 bears were brought here to Mount Capra, and they are not afraid of dogs or humans. They come, take a sheep, and leave.
Sunt turiștii care
Tourists feed them and take pictures with them. These bears are the most dangerous because they are not afraid. Because of them, we have to pay for the sheep they prey on. And we are not happy to pay 4 to 5 million lei to the owner.
convine să plătim 4-5 milioane cât e la om, oaia îmi convine.
And I should fight with the bear to save the sheep. To hit it with my club, as I have done before. Should I fight again? This summer, I haven't done it anymore. Wild bears are more fearful, they know fear. You can deal with them differently.
Și sălbatici? Nu, sunt mai fricoși, mai știu mai frică, aia îi duci altfel.
Not long ago, just a few decades back, villagers at the foot of the Carpathians measured their wealth not only in land but also by the size of their sheep flocks. The quality of the hand-kneaded cheese made in the mountains was a point of pride and competition, each village striving to create a renowned and celebrated brand. They chose the high mountain pastures because the milk from sheep grazing in these pristine environments was rich in flavor and fat, resulting in cheese that was impossible to replicate in the lower hills or plains. Villages once sent their sheep to graze on their own mountains, with large flocks that would almost completely cover the pastures. The idea of one community ceding a mountain to another was unthinkable. But now, the mountains lie nearly deserted, the once bustling sheepfolds now teetering on the brink of collapse. And those who still go up the mountains have the chance to choose and rent the most accessible and lush pastures. A consequence of owners' lack of interest and the dwindling number of people willing to take on this demanding work.
Deci fiecare comună are muntele lui. Cum e Dobronegu. Vârful ăla, uite de acolo, ala e Dobronegu.
Each village has its own mountain. For example, the Dobronegu mountain, that peak over there, belongs to the village of Maluren. But they no longer have sheep, so they rented it out to the village of Nuxora.
Și ăsta nu e muntele nostru.
And this is not our mountain. It is the mountain of the village of Nuxora. Our mountain is Long Valley, as you know. But since we didn't have enough shepherds, we couldn't go there because it's a hard-to-access mountain.
Nu, n-am avut oameni, dar mulți.
We didn't have enough people to milk the sheep, and the grass there was too tall. There's no cart path, and we had to carry everything we needed, even the cheese, with horses. It was easier here.
Du-te, cărăm cu animale, cu cai. I-am cărat aici.
Ăsta e muntele Gruișor, care e închiriat la o comună la Nucșoara. Vezi de Mușetești.
This is Gruishur Mountain, which we rented from the Nucșora village. We are from the village of Mușetest. We have 800 milk-producing sheep, 200 yearling ewes, 200 lambs, and 50 rams, each separated into different areas of the mountain.
Mie am separat ca să nu sucă, să putem mulge oile.
The lambs are separated so they don't suckle, allowing sheep to have more milk. The yearling ewes are separated because they can't be milked, and we take them and the lambs higher up the mountain, where the grass is finer and better for their growth. The larger grass here is reserved for the milk-producing sheep. It's also more sheltered, and the forest provides grass that is more favorable for milk production.
Berbecii nu apropiem de oi, fiindcă se montează și fată prea din timp.
The rams are kept separate from the ewes, to prevent early breeding, which we aim to start after mid-September. This way, we ensure that the sheep will give birth at the beginning of March next year. This ensures we have as many milk-producing sheep as possible for the next summer.
Oile le adunăm din primăvară când se zăpada.
We gather the sheep in the spring when the snow melts and keep them in the village until May 20th, when we come up here. We stay in the mountains for 4 months, until September 20th. The needed cheese we produce is divided among the owners. We produce it together, weigh it, and then divide the total by the number of sheep. The owners come up to the mountain to collect their share, each according to the number of sheep they own. For example, last year, we produced 3 kilograms and 300 grams of hand-kneaded cheese per sheep. This year I don't know how it will be, as the weather has been harsh. I don't think we will produce as well as in other years.
Multe a fost, cred că nu mai ieșim așa de bine cum am ieșit în alt an.
On the Gruischer Mountain, 5 herdsmen diligently partake in the milking of 800 sheep, a modest number compared to the large herds of the past. The animals are brought to be milked in a wooden pen, equipped with a rudimentary structure called strunga, which translates to narrow place. The construction has several gates, and during milking, the shepherds position themselves opposite these gates, using their knees to block them, allowing the sheep to pass through one by one. Inside the pen, other shepherds herd the animals towards the gates, urging them to pass through. Each herdsman, with deft hands and practiced rhythm, tends to about 160 dairy sheep, completing their task in less than an hour. This swift, silent act is a proof to their enduring and grueling routine. During the first 2 months of their stay in the mountains, the sheep are milked twice a day. As summer progresses and the grass withers, diminishing the available forage, the sheep are milked only once. Although the quantity is less, the milk becomes richer in fats, and the cheese produced during this latter period is more highly valued. The fresh milk is brought to the sheepfold, strained through a dense cloth, and poured into a copper cauldron to preserve its taste. Next comes the heating process, the first stage in transforming this precious liquid into what will eventually become the coveted kneaded cheese. Meanwhile, the shepherd's meal is being prepared, as they must soon return to the mountains with the sheep. The head shepherd's assistant boils polenta, a dish made from cornmeal. Polenta is the staple food for the shepherds during the 4 months they spend in the mountains. Combined with the kneaded cheese made here, this menu becomes monotonous and lacks the nutritional complexity of a varied diet. And yet, the shepherds who care for the milk-producing sheep are said to be privileged compared to those who take the rams or lambs far from the sheepfold, up in the mountains. Coming to the sheepfold twice a day for milking is said to make their workday shorter. Additionally, they get to enjoy hot meals, something the others miss out on.
La oile cu lapte, la mânzări, că este mult dimineața, ai plecat, trebuie să mergi înapoi la ușă.
With the dairy sheep, you don't get bored. You milk them in the morning, then leave and come back to milk them again in the evening, and the time passes more quickly. But with the barren sheep, you leave in the morning and until evening you're bored.
Ne mai uităm așa, ca să ne treacă timpul și nouă mai repede, ne mai uităm așa între ele.
And to make the time pass faster, we check them to make sure they're not sick. However, we do have a radio, so we listen to that sometimes. We listen to the weather forecast, the news from Parliament, and antenna of the villages, because they play music that lightens our hearts.
Mai bagă și nouă și ne mai ușurează nițel inima, ce și nouă ne mai...
In the mountains, there are no televisions for us to watch, and even if there were, there wouldn't be time because we have to look after the sheep.
La munte nu este televizoare ca să ne uităm noi la televizor. Și chiar dacă ar fi, păi n-ai timp. Că trebuie să stai după oaie, nu stai la televizor.
We also meet with neighbors from other mountains at the borders and talk. We ask them if they have any wild animals. We also sing or whistle.
Mai când și așa, iurea, mai fai.
Cu oile avem fiecare, suntem repartizați avem munții noștri.
Each of us has our own mountains. Here we stay with the barren sheep on this mountain, Faufuyescu. It's a higher, colder mountain, better suited for the barren sheep. The dairy sheep stay lower down, on a warmer, more sheltered mountain. I've been alone here for over a month. Sometimes someone else comes, but you can't rely on them.
Am mai avut niște băieți, niște copilandri, i-au apucat timpul rău, au fugit că se duc acasă, n-au mai venit.
I had some young boys, but when bad weather came, they ran home. Others came from other villages, but they fled too. They stay for 2 or 3 days, and as soon as bad weather or predators come, they leave. The life is very harsh because you stay with sheep day and night, often without eating on time, and you eat cold food. This summer, in 5 months, I've only eaten bread once. The rest of the time it's just polenta, prepared in a hurry because the sheep leave and you have to go with them. And then there are predators too.
Pentru că pleacă oile, trebuie să pleci lângă ele, vine jiganea peste tine.
However, the preparation of the meal is fascinating. The shepherds cut respectable slices from the polenta, using wooden paddles, and insert large pieces of kneaded cheese. With their bare hands, they mold the hot polenta slices into spheres, encasing the precious cheese inside. This dish is called bulls. Once tightly sealed to prevent the cheese from leaking, the bulls is placed on the embers and baked until the cheese inside melts and blends with the polenta, while the exterior becomes crispy. This delicious dish cannot be reproduced at home, even if the ingredients are the same. Once the meal is ready, the preparation of the cheese begins. The milk is heated to around 35 degrees Celsius over 20 to 30 minutes. Then, rennet, a natural product made from the stomach lining of a milk-fed lamb, is added to coagulate the milk.
Cheagul natural de miel.
The rennet is natural, from a lamb. The lamb is sacrificed at a maximum of 1 week old and then prepared from his stomach. It put to dry, marinated, and kept in a bottle.
But the heating temperature is very important. Overheating can destroy the rennet's effectiveness, while underheating turns the milk into a type of yogurt. Both outcomes ruining the cheese-making process. Meanwhile, the shepherds have finished their meal, but they will not leave until they ensure their fearless partners, the dogs, receive their share of food. The leftover polenta from the shepherd's table will go to their loyal four-legged companions.
După ce îl încălzim, îl dăm jos și îl punem până la cheagă, o jumătate de oră.
After heating the milk, we take it off the heat and wait until it coagulates. Half an hour.
Hai, luați-l voi.
Come, you take it.
Așa. Gata. Acum să acopere.
Now we cover it to keep it warm, and leave it for another half an hour, until it coagulates.
După aia discutăm mai departe.
The prosperity of a sheepfold depends on the skill and involvement of the shepherds. The shepherds' knowledge of the land, their skill in animal husbandry, and their deep respect for the nature are invaluable treasures. Yet, these are increasingly viewed as relics of a bygone era, difficult to preserve amidst the whirlwind of change. But a new generation is necessary for continuity. Young people today are drawn to the allure of the city, with its promises of comfort and prosperity. The harsh realities of shepherding, endless days under the scorching sun or biting cold, the constant vigilance required to protect the sheep from predators, and the solitude of the mountains, do not hold the same appeal. The material rewards for this laborious work are meager, providing little incentive for those who seek financial stability in a rapidly changing world.
Pe 23 septembrie, acum mai câteva zile fac și eu 21 de ani. Și am venit aceea la munte să vedem. N-am fost în viața mea.
On September 23rd, in a few days, I'll turn 21, and I've come here to the mountains to see what it's like, as I've never been before. I don't like shepherding. It's not in my blood. It was hard for me. I thought about my family back home. I want to stay home and work in construction. Shepherding seemed difficult to me, alone in the mountains, with the fog and bad weather. I don't think there will be any more shepherds coming to the mountains. I wouldn't come back.
Să mai vină la munte aici la oi. Nu știu cine să mai vină aici la oi. Eu nu despre mine, cred că n-aș mai veni aici.
Am avut pe fiul mare de șade cu mine în casă, l-am avut, a fost și el, cunoaște băcie.
I had my eldest son here. He knows shepherding, knows how to make cheese, but he didn't want to practice it anymore. Now he's in Italy. He makes more money there than he would here. I have another son who has a horse-drawn cart, 35 sheep of his own, cows, pigs. He has everything. But he doesn't like it here. He says he'll come, but then you see him, and 5 minutes later, he's gone. And I have my son-in-law too. He's been in Italy for 6 years. He was a head shepherd. But he told me, Dad, I won't stay here anymore.
Și am pe gineri meu. Are 6 ani de când e în Italia. A fost baci. Și arsticule nu mai stau.
As the younger generation turns away from the mountains, the number of shepherds dwindles. The old herders are left to witness the slow decline of their beloved craft. And for some, this once cherished job has become merely a difficult means of subsistence.
Meseria aceasta trebuie să le creeze oameni tineri, băieți tineri, că uite că noi viitorul ăsta ne ducem.
This profession needs to inspire young people, young boys, because look, we are not the future. We are on our way out. There has to be someone to look after the animals in these mountains. I was raised to care for animals. Our family has always had animals. Sometimes I say I won't go back up to the mountain, but when the grass starts to sprout, it's like I want to fly like young birds when they leave the nest.
Ca puiul din găoacea când îl face pe păsările sălbatice.
I can't say I won't come back. I say it now when I'm angry, but I've grown to love it. It's in my blood. Here are these peaks, and until I conquer a rocky summit. I remember when I was little, the springs from where I drank water, where I grew up when I was just a small child. So for me, this profession is easy.
Izborile de unde beam apă, de unde am crescut, când aveam apă pe stroapă, cum vine vorba. Acum, pentru mine, mi-e ceva ușor.
Nu merită să facem meseria asta, dar altceva ce să facem, unde să ne mai ducem acum? Nu mai avem unde să muncim.
It's not worth doing this job, but at my age, I have nowhere else to go to work. No one will hire us anywhere else. I'm 55 years old and started shepherding at 16 when I went to the mountains with my father. He was a shepherd too. But here, there is filth, sickness, and all sorts of hardships. It's a very tough job. Here isn't much money. Fortunately, we don't smoke anymore since cigarettes have become so expensive. And while we're here in the mountains, we don't even spend money on food because we eat from the sheepfold. And for clothes, even less. We're lucky that there's no vanity here since we don't meet anyone.
Dar avem baftă că nu prea ne trebuie îmbrăcăminte, cine știe ce e aici. Nu-i fudulia, nu-i nimic, că n-avem cu cine ne prea întâlni așa des. N-avem niciun contract, nicio carte de muncă, nimic cu ei.
We don't have a contract or work record, and if we get sick, we pay for the hospital ourselves. We won't have a pension. In old age, maybe our children will take care of us. But as long as we can manage on our feet, we are good for work.
Că suntem pe picioare și păi putem, suntem buni, că nu.
After the milk has curdled, the so-called kneading of the curd begins. This is a meticulous process, where the patience and skill of the head shepherd combine for minutes on end to break down the large chunks of curd, resulting in a homogeneous mass of small pieces mixed with whey. After a few minutes, when the small pieces have settled at the bottom of the cauldron, the head shepherd will start gathering the finely chopped curd into a single mass. This process must be done with slow hand movements, otherwise the small curd pieces will mix back into the whey.
După ce l-am adunat bine, îl punem în sidila, asta se numește sidila.
After gathering it well, we put it in the sidila. This is called sidila.
The resulting mass is then gathered into a thick, sturdy cloth and pressed to separate it from the remaining whey collected with the curd.
Și să nu scape.
Be careful, not to let it escape.
După ce s-a strâns, se pune în crintă și se scoate bine tot zărul din ea.
The cloth filled with curd is placed in a wooden box called krinta. The initial pressing is done manually, monitoring the clarity of the draining whey. The presence of fat in the drained whey indicates that the pressing was too rapid, which will make the cheese dry and crumbly in the end.
Când venim în primăvară și când ieșim aici așa, laptele aproape dublu.
When we come in the spring, the milk is almost double compared to now, so we make 2 pieces of cheese like these at each milking. Now, being autumn, the milk is less, and we only make 1, and this weighs around 15 kilograms.
După ce se scoate tot zărul bine, se desface.
After we have extracted all the whey well, we unwrap it and knead it so we can squeeze it again. After kneading, we gather it again in the cheesecloth, and then squeeze it with the press.
After the cheesecloth is unwrapped, the curd must be kneaded thoroughly again. Large chunks need to be broken down to release the trapped whey. This ensures that during the subsequent pressings, the cheese will remain almost dry. If not, the leftover whey inside will soon give the cheese a sharp and sour taste. Next comes the strong pressing, where a wooden board is placed over the cheese sack and pressed with a lever. The head shepherd adds his own weight to accelerate the draining. This entire operation is repeated twice, until the curd is left to press under the weight of a heavy stone hung from the end of the lever. The curd is ready for fermentation when no more whey drips from the trough. This process can take up to 12 hours.
Se învăluiește să nu se răcească, că
Now we put a weight on it to press and cover it to keep it warm. I learned this craft from older people who are no longer with us today.
meseria asta am învățat-o și eu de alți bani mai bătrâni care nu mai sunt acum.
The craft of being a head shepherd is learned over many years of apprenticeship and is usually passed down from generation to generation. Beyond the need to master the art of making high-quality cheese, the head shepherd must also know how to carefully select and efficiently organize their herders. A fearful or lazy herder has no place on the mountain. Otherwise, the losses can be significant. Not only will there be a reduced amount of cheese, but the flock might also suffer considerable losses. Every day, the shepherds traverse kilometers of mountainous terrain, seeking the best grazing spots. This daily migration takes them to high peaks, where they constantly face the threat of predator attacks, such as from bears and wolves, and the dangers presented by the rugged landscape and unpredictable weather. Heavy rain, dense fog, and treacherous rocks make their journey perilous.
Ursul vine dintr-o parte în alta. alții vin lupi din partea altă, tot așa la fel, se succes dintr-o parte în altă.
Bears cross from one side of the mountain to the other, as do wolves. Here, the shepherds from the Valsen riverside chase them away with their dogs towards us, and we chase them across to the other side of the Doamna River.
Se și zi și noaptea lângă ele, e și urs, e și lup.
We have to stay with the flock day and night. There are bears, and there are wolves. And when the bad weather comes with thick fog and heavy rain, we can't see ourselves, the sheep, or the donkeys. We had to shout to each other to find our way. This year was very difficult.
Ploilor la ceața asta periculoasă, deasă, multă. A fost foarte greu anul ăsta.
At night or when the weather turns bad, when thick fog blankets the mountain, predator attacks become much more frequent. Usually, during the summer, wolves don't roam in packs. They are solitary, which almost entirely reduces their chances of successfully attacking a flock directly. Taking advantage of the dense fog and positioning themselves against the wind, so that their scent is not detected by the shepherd dogs, a lone wolf waits for the right moment to strike. Perhaps a solitary sheep will break away from the flock, or an injured one will lag behind, unable to keep pace with the others. Otherwise, the wolf will wait, will follow the flock for a long time and only give up if there is no opportunity. It knows that without the support of a pack, the chances of surviving a direct confrontation with the dogs are nil. But night fell, and the opportunity arose. A sheep wandered into the forest, a certain prey. However, its cries of despair alerted the dogs and then the shepherds. Though they arrived a little late due to the distance, the dogs managed to save the sheep with ease and chase away the wolf. The shepherds say the wolf was bitten by the dogs and has learned its lesson. It will leave the area and not attack this flock again.
It has been bitten on her legs. I have to carry her on my back.
Yet, the sheep was bitten on its legs and struggles to walk. The shepherd has no choice but to carry it on his back. Just a few days later, another attack struck the flock. This time, a bear managed to kill a stray sheep. The shepherd, out searching with the dogs, arrived after the bear had already devoured part of it. The dogs fought fiercely and drove the beast away. Typically, it is nearly impossible to drive off a bear with its prey, but the shepherds say their dogs are strong and battle-hardened. As a reward, the dogs are given the sheep. This also serves as a way to motivate them to be just as brave in future encounters.
Domnule, un câine bun acum, cum să vă spun, este din cățeaua pe care o cunoști și cu câinii care s-a cățărit, cum zicem noi.
A good dog is the descendant of the female dog you know and the male dog she paired with. If the parents are good at guarding, then their puppies will be too. You can tell a good dog by its behavior. If it goes after the sheep at night without being prompted, it's a reliable, good dog. But just like dogs, there are both brave and cowardly bears.
Și de pui, când e vorba de când este pui, el încearcă că îl trimite ursoaica. Îl trimite ca să la pradă și ea stă pe partea și îl urmărește.
Some bears are trained by their mothers from a young age to attack sheep while she watches from a distance. Such a bear is very dangerous. You can stand your ground and face it, but it will keep attacking despite the dogs, coming at you relentlessly until it brings you down, circling around and not giving up.
Te duci în fața lui și să ții piept. El tot vine cu tine grămadă.
it won't leave without its prey. But there are also cowardly bears, who try to take a sheep, but run away when the dogs bark and you shout at them, fleeing so fast you can't catch up.
Oia mai uite din fugă, adică nu poți să-l prinzi în urmă.
In the shepherd's hut, the whey left over from curds making is never wasted. 3 more delicious products can be made from it. A good portion of the whey is used to make butter. In a narrow churn, the whey is beaten until the fat rises to the surface. This process is long, hard, and meticulous. But the resulting butter is tasty and highly prized. The remaining whey is heated once again. This time, it is brought to a boil. This causes another type of cheese, less rich in fat than the initial curds, to rise to the surface. This cheese is also well appreciated. When boiling is complete, the cheese is scooped into a cloth. It is simply left to drain outside. Meanwhile, in the fermentation room, the head shepherd is ready to start the final stage of the renowned kneaded cheese.
După ce se stoarce în crintă, cum îi spunem noi, se aduce aici se pune la dospit.
After it's squeezed in the curds press, which we call krinta, it is brought here and left to ferment for 5 days. We process it every 2 days. If we make 4 curds a day, we will process 8 at a time. Then it is cut into slices, cleaned, minced through the grinder, salted, and put into a leather bag called burduf.
Se curăță frumos, se curăță coaja, se dă la mașină și se bagă, să sară, se bagă la burduf.
Cleaning the curd requires attention and patience, balancing deep cuts that can lead to significant losses in the total amount, with shallow cuts that can adversely affect the taste. Any trace of rind in the final product will cast a bitter shadow over its flavor. The meticulously cleaned pieces are then minced, using a meat grinder. In the past, this task was performed by hand. The chief shepherd would use a ridged wooden tool to grate the cheese into finer fragments. When the product exiting the grinder doesn't crumble into bits but flows smoothly, it is said that the curd has succeeded, indicating it has absorbed enough fat.
Acum cântărim, ca să știm câte sare dăm.
Now we weigh it, so we know how much salt to put.
The minced curd will be weighed and mixed with salt in the precise proportion of 30 grams per kilogram. Salt cannot be introduced before this stage as it would halt fermentation, but it now plays a crucial role in preservation. The freshly minced curd will be uniformly mixed with the measured salt. The curd is then ready to be placed in the bag. But this task is reserved solely for the head shepherd. His assistant, however, is responsible for preparing pieces small enough to pass through the narrow opening of the bag. The bag destined to hold the cheese is crafted from well-treated sheep leather. The wool has been carefully shaved off, the leather thoroughly washed and dried. The cheese is packed tightly into this bag, with each piece pressed firmly and carefully to leave no pockets of air. Any trapped air could invite mold, leading to the loss of the entire batch. When the bag is full, it is sewn shut and then pricked with a needle to allow it to breathe, as the shepherd says, releasing any gases produced during fermentation.
Deci după ce să sară, să bagă la burduf, să bagă la magazie. Și aici așa stă la conservare.
After salting, the curd is placed in the bag and taken to storage, where it will be preserved until September, when it is distributed to the people.
As the sun sets over the rugged peaks of the Carpathians, casting a golden hue over the vast landscape, shepherds begin gathering their flocks for the night. This scene, so serene and timeless, holds a poignant truth. These moments may soon become a memory of the past. For generations, shepherds have roamed these mountains, leading their sheep through the valleys and over the peaks, continuing a tradition that has been passed down through the ages. In the coming years, the familiar sight of herds grazing on these slopes is set to fade. Modernity encroaches on their ancient ways. The shepherds of the Carpathians deserve more than our nostalgia. They deserve our respect and our efforts to ensure that their way of life endures.